For a comedy about awkward, messy teenagers, Never Have I Ever is astonishingly confident. In its second season, the Netflix comedy builds on a poignant, funny first season by continuing to nail a tricky balance between heartfelt realism and Disney Channel absurdism. It's the king of comedy that can delve into a tear-jerking meditation on grief in one scene, then seamlessly transition to over-the-top physical gags where a jock gets hit by a car. Today, we're going to be talking about Never Have I Ever most awkward moments on set. The show follows Devi Vishwakumar Mitra Ramakrishnan, a first-generational Indian-American high schooler, as she reacclimates herself to school after the unexpected death of her father. Along with Ramakrishnan, the show stars Ramona Young, Lee Rodriguez, Purna Jagannathan, Senthil Ramamurthy, Rika Morjani, Darren Barnet, Jaron Lewison, and John McElroy. While the series is chock full of charm, emotion, and laugh-out-loud moments, we picked a few of the most awkward moments on set after season 1. But before we get started, hit the like button and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the new stuff we have to offer. First, we have Eleanor's audition. One of Eleanor's greatest qualities is her enthusiasm for theater. She's not one to push down her flair for the dramatic, leading to a great opportunity. Eleanor's just learned her mother is back in town, causing her to become emotional during her audition, which is exactly what helps her in the end. Though she was reading for a secondary role, her teacher's moved by the raw emotion Eleanor brings and decides that she should play the lead role instead. Eleanor beams with pride, as does Fabiola, who's watching the auditions. Next is when Devi finally plays the harp again. This was one of the most touching scenes in the show thus far. Last time Devi played the harp was at her school's orchestra concert, the same night her father unexpectedly died in the middle of the performance. After witnessing his death and understandably traumatized Devi, it only flashed back to that moment when she tried to play. However, during lunch with her uncle and Kamala's potential husband, Prashant, Steve shows up. Kamala and Nalini need to sneak him out. As a distraction, Devi decides to play the harp. Struggles at first, but soon she's playing the way she used to, flashing back to happier moments. Next up is when Ben has dinner with the Vishwakumars. In a Ben-centric episode, we learn that behind the confident rich kid facade, Ben Gross is a lonely teen who struggles with his limited friend pool and the constant absence of his parents. When Ben goes to the dermatologist, who happens to be Nalini, to take care of a nasty pimple, he begins to cry. Something that comes about when Nalini mentions eating with her family and how his parents must be proud of him. This prompts her to invite Ben to dinner, though we don't see her ask. After an awkward greeting, Ben eventually falls into the rhythm of the Vishwakumars, and they all enjoy each other's company for the rest of the evening. Also, we have the moment when Devi tells Ron what's what. We learn about Devi's ambition to get into an Ivy League college at the beginning of the season. Part of her plan includes connecting with Ron Hansen Bahadachara, a career counselor whose students always end up in the Ivies. Devi finds him during a Ganesh Puja, which is being hosted at her school. When she makes a case for herself about why Ron should take her on, he tells her she should use the story about her father's death. Otherwise, she won't stand out. This understandably upsets Devi, and she defends herself and her hard work, telling him she's not just another Indian kid. She tells him, "I don't need some washed-up white dude who leases a Tesla telling me what makes me special." Yes, tell him Devi. Next is needing to be seen by Devi. Devi feels like she hasn't made a name for herself and no one is paying attention to her. However, some people know her as the girl who was temporarily paralyzed or having her father die of a heart attack during a school event. She feels ready. She wants everyone to see her for who she truly is, not just for her past trauma, which is relatable. The awkward moment when Devi lashed out at her friends. Devi has two best friends, Eleanor and Fabiola, who are always ready to support her and care for her during and after every trauma that she's gone through. They're loyal, caring, and presumably have been in Devi's life for a long time. Throughout the show, Devi lashes out at her friends when she's stressed, and although it isn't a good habit, it's relatable as many are prone to lash out at those closest to them when stressed. Next up is when Paxton stays at the hospital with Devi. Devi decides to go to a party hosted by one of her classmates to continue trying to get close to Paxton, Paul Yoshida. While she's there, she notices Paxton getting cozy with someone else and decides to divert her energy towards drinking. Shortly after, she stumbles outside where she's met with a coyote she thinks is her father. It's not, and when Devi reaches out to talk to it, she's attacked while everyone at the party is watching. Paxton takes her to the hospital, but he stays with her instead of dropping her off and leaving. He tells her everyone thinks she's dead, a bit dramatic, and the two take a selfie together to prove she isn't, which Paxton shares on social media. Much to the surprise and delight of Devi, he only leaves when Nalini Nalini arrives at the hospital. Also, we have the moment when Mohan comforts Devi. Devi holds a resentment and anger toward her mother and her true sorrow after her father's death. But it's not until one of the later episodes that Devi shares one of her darkest memories with the audience, where her mother says Devi is no child of hers. It's a heartbreaking moment and relatable that Devi wouldn't want to think about this and instead repress the memory. After Ben throws a rude comment at Devi during school, she returns home shaken by what he said. When she arrives, she finds her father, yes, the one who died, sitting on the couch watching an old John McEnroe tennis match. She tells him about what happened, feeling down about not being beautiful like Kamala. Mohan tells her she should fight back with your spirit, little one, and not let anyone get her down. Of course, Mohan isn't there and Devi abruptly wakes up after the scene, but he's still able to be a source of comfort and love for Devi. Next up is when Devi, Nalini, and Kamala spread Mohan's ashes. In one of the final scenes of the season, and undoubtedly the most emotional one of all, Nalini, Kamala, and Devi finally put Mohan to rest on his birthday. Devi and Nalini were fighting earlier in the episode, and it was uncertain whether Devi would make it to the beach where Nalini and Kamala go to spread Mohan's ashes. Devi makes it just in time with the help of John McEnroe, who was also a voiceover up until this episode. She and Nalini have an emotional reunion. Soon after, Nalini is ready to spread the ashes. After writing a small prayer, she prompts Kamala to play a song. And that song, Beautiful Day by U2. Be right back, need to have another cry over this. Next is feeling insecure and unsure. This is a relatable motif in most people's lives in high school and beyond. People are always searching to find themselves and be their authentic selves, which Devi does throughout the show. She tries to reckon with her Indian and American identities while also discovering her friends and potential romantic partners. She feels insecure and unsure about who she is, who she wants to be, and how she'll get there, which is very relatable. Yeah, do not forget that moment when Devi acted like she's fine. Devi has recently been through terrible traumas after her father died suddenly of a heart attack and how she became paralyzed after the shock. Thankfully, her paralysis is temporary, but Devi has been through traumatic experiences, yet she pretends that she is fine when discussing her life with her therapist. This is a relatable response, as most people want the facade of being strong and might be hesitant to discuss their hardships. This is a basic good TV storytelling, but it's tough to pull off. The approach needs everyone on both sides of the camera to agree about taking it seriously and wasting time with it. Never Have I Ever is one of the best shows on Netflix because it nails that balance and showcases a high school that is nothing like high school, but still feels like it. It's an appealing fantasy because it plays to such a familiar feeling. Part of the reason the high school is tough is that it's nothing like what the movies promised it would be, but what occasionally made it fun, and what Never Have I Ever recognizes, is the feeling that maybe at any moment it could be. Thanks for taking time to watch this video. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Also, click on the bell icon to get new video updates.